Today, we're going to talk about something that's, well, it's really personal, and for many, pretty confusing. It's about those changes in social recognition that can happen as we or the people we love get older. Let's get right into it. I mean, just think about that for a second. It's a really jarring question, isn't it? If you've ever cared for an aging parent or a partner, you might have faced this exact moment. And it just leaves you with so many questions about memory, about your connection, and what on earth is going on inside their brain.
So, this quote, it really hits home. It's from a story about a woman named Mrs. T. She saw her neighbor of 15 years, waved back politely, but she just couldn't place her. And that's the key here. It wasn't because she didn't care, it was something else entirely. And that's exactly what we're here to understand today. Right. So the first thing we have to get straight is that this isn't about simple forgetfulness, like where you put your keys. We're talking about a very specific process in the brain. And really, understanding it is the first step toward compassion and, actually being able to help.
So, what exactly is social recognition? Well, you can think of it like your brain's internal social database. It's this incredibly fast, complex system that connects a face to a name, to a shared history, to a feeling. It's the silent glue that makes our social world feel safe and familiar. And this isn't some abstract idea, right? It's biological. It's happening in specific parts of the brain. You've got the temporal lobes, which handle memory, and the occipital lobes, which process what we see. It's the brain's amazing pattern matching system that sometimes with age just starts to struggle a little to make those lightning fast connections. And this is probably the most important thing to take away from this whole explainer. When a loved one doesn't recognize someone they should know, it is almost never, ever a sign that they don't care. It is a moment of pure, genuine confusion happening inside their brain's wiring. Reframing it that way just changes everything.
And research actually backs us up in a really beautiful way. A recent study found that the emotional bond, the love, the history, that feeling you have for someone, that often stays completely intact. It's the brain's social map, the face recognition part, that's having a tough time, not the heart. So, we've got the biology down, but how does that translate to what we actually see on the outside? Why does someone who used to be the life of the party suddenly start to pull back? Well, it's a direct result of everything we've just talked about. You might start noticing little things, a slight pause before they say hello to someone, or maybe calling a grandchild by the wrong name. Sometimes it leads to avoiding family get-togethers altogether. These aren't just random choices, they're signals that there's an internal struggle happening. Just try to put yourself in their shoes for a minute. Imagine if you weren't sure you'd recognize the next person who walked up to you. Every single social interaction would feel like a high-stakes pop quiz you weren't ready for. That constant feeling of unpredictability is just plain exhausting. And our brains, they're smart. They're designed to protect us. And that leads to this powerful thing called avoidance reinforcement. The brain learns very logically that if you just stay quiet or maybe just stay home, you get to avoid that potential embarrassment or confusion. It's a self-protection mechanism that, over time, can make a person's world get smaller and smaller. Okay, so that's the challenge, and it can sound pretty overwhelming. But, and this is a big but, the good news is there are real, concrete, and compassionate ways to help. Let's get into the practical stuff, the caregiver's toolkit for building a bridge back to that connection. We've got 5 really powerful strategies here. They're all great, but I want to zoom in on one in particular, number 4, because it's such a simple shift in how we communicate, and it can be a total game changer. Just look at the difference here. On the left, that first approach, it's a quiz. It puts the person on the spot, and it just spikes their anxiety. But the one on the right, that's not a test. It's a gift. You're giving them the name and the context from your book club, which gently helps their brain make the connection without any pressure at all. That's subtle assistance, and believe me, it makes all the difference in the world. All right, let's switch gears a bit and tackle some of the most common questions that caregivers have about all this. Because, these are the day-to-day things that can be the hardest to navigate. Okay, first up, this is a big one. That inconsistency can be so confusing for everybody. So, is it normal? The answer is a resounding yes. Absolutely. Think about it. Just like any other brain function, social recognition gets tired. It's affected by fatigue, by stress, or even just by being in a loud, crowded room. A bad day for recognizing people doesn't mean it's a permanent step back. It might just mean the brain needs a break. Here's another tricky one.
Our first instinct is usually to jump in and correct a mistake, right? But is that actually the most helpful thing to do in this situation? The best approach here is to resist that urge to correct them directly, because that can feel like you're calling them out, and it can be embarrassing. Instead, what you do is gently model the right name a few seconds later in the conversation. So if they say, "Hi, Susan," you can just say a little later, "It's so good to see you, Sarah." It corrects the information without correcting the person.
And finally, in this digital world we live in, is there any role for technology to play in helping out?
Oh, for sure. Simple tools can be amazing here. Things like a digital photo frame that just cycles through pictures of family members with their names right there on the screen. That's a fantastic low-pressure way to reinforce those connections. They become gentle, constant cues in the environment, not a test they have to pass.
And that really brings us right back to the heart of it all, doesn't it? The connection, the history, the love. That stuff doesn't just evaporate. But the path to accessing it, to acknowledging it, might need to change. And by understanding what's going on in the brain and using these compassionate strategies, we can be the ones to help build those new paths, to build that bridge right back to the people we love.